Okay. So last night there was a meeting that I counted more than 1,000 people at, where hundreds of others were not let in because there wasn't room. I presented questions, which are here, both in English and Spanish, none of which were answered. Unfortunately, it was reminiscent of when I was the board attorney, where Mr. Zittimer, who I do respect and like, was running the meeting, and no one had answers, even though Mr. Zittimer said, these are fact questions. Someone needs to have these answers. My questions were very simple. What was the deficit for the last 3 years? What amount of that was caused by hazardous or courtesy busing? What amount of money is needed for this year? No one had answers. No one wanted to answer. There was an agreement which was signed this past August called the C2 agreement. State Monitor Zara signed it, Township signed it, non-public signed it, and Miss Winter signed it for the Lakewood schools. That agreement makes it clear, and that was signed in August, that busing will continue as it was and as it is till February 26th, 28th, as it is, and if there's any issue with money, the state will take the hit. The township will give $1 million, which I've confirmed with the township they're still willing to do, but the state has backed out. Now, I just got a copy of an email from the Igud Amostos, which was sent to Laura Winters only moments ago, 11:34, which says, Dear Miss Winters, due to the districts breaching their obligations to our students and families and reneging on the understandings we reach with the district and state, we must regretfully advise you that we will very likely revert to school times that differ than what was relied upon. In English, what this means is, it appears the Igud, who did sign on to that C2 document, since the state has reneged, the district has reneged, the township hasn't, they're willing to give the $1 million. Well, this is going to cause all the children and their families of the non-public schools to have to start busing their kids, carpooling their kids, walking their kids. And we know, last time there was no busing, it took an hour to 2 hours to get to the Hader school, to get to wherever you have to get to. So at this point, the Mostos I see here, and just came out to Miss Winters, is saying, you reneged, we don't want to do, tit for tat with you, but we have no choice, because now we have no buses, and now we're going to have to bus our own kids, and therefore the start times are going to have to go back. Now, how does this play out? I represent 4 vendors currently. The 4 vendors are Simintov, Jays, Clar, and Central Bus. They just were told yesterday, here are new routes. Now, what they are saying to me, and we're in the middle of analyzing all these papers here, is that what's going to happen is, first of all, many of the routes are not new. They're just changed, but changed from, let's say, the Spruce Street area to Forest Avenue or vice versa. That's not the same route. The bigger problem is in Lakewood we have tiering. There's, let's say, a 7 o'clock run with bus 1. Bus 1 drops the kids off and does an 8 o'clock run, same bus. If your area is changed, if your time to transport the first group of kids changes, is longer, you can't do the next tier. So what you're going to have are both public school kids and non-public school kids are going to be affected, not because the bus companies want to do it, but if they're being told by Lakewood District, you have a different area, a different route, a different bid, a different this, they can't physically do it. That's another problem. Interestingly, I did an OPA request to the Lakewood Township yesterday. And I see right here, and anyone can get a copy, and I'll gladly provide it. There are emails as of yesterday between Mr. Azara, State Monitor, and committee members. And essentially what those are saying, and again, it's here, I'm looking at them, unless I'm misunderstanding it, Mr. Azara has said to the Township Committee, we really didn't need $6 million for busing this year. We did it. It was an estimate at that time. We'd only really need about 3.2. Now that's in writing, so I ain't making this up. I listen to a lot of people at meetings. They all say things. Mr. Zara, who I happen to know, In one of the cases I sued the district on, he was one of my witnesses via subpoena, but he provided testimony. I think he's a nice guy that may not be popular. But unfortunately, Mr. Azara is being led down the wrong road again, like he was with the Helen Tobiah case, like he was with the special ed cases where I had him as a witness. And he's writing right here, the Township Committee, that, if I may, no, we don't need all this money, because in response to Township Committee questions, they're saying, well, how much do you really need? And he is saying, at this point, the township needs to provide 2.5 million and we'll be okay. Well, wait a minute. I thought you needed 6 million. So what is it? Most disturbing, back to the vendors, is that they all entered into contracts. The contracts, when they were entered into, the district had no money already. Because if you heard the auditor last night, and by the way, the auditor last night acknowledged what I know from all my OPA requests, which is 3 boxes already, okay? They were in deficit last year. They were in deficit the year before. So how did they enter into all these? These are only a few. I have another 2 boxes of contracts. They entered into contracts, the Board of Ed, not having money. My vendors, our vendors, the vendors who drive our children, relied on those contracts to their detriment, which is a legal term. And now the district's saying the contracts don't exist. This all doesn't make sense. Now we're going to not have, and now I hear last night there's not enough police. There is police. I spoke to the township about that. There are rules about police. You can't just get a police officer from Lacey or Freehold or a crossing guard from Howell. We are a civil union town, whether we like it or not. And police officers have to ride with our police officer for a few months. These are all rules and regulations. So even if Howell said, here's 40 police officers, we would probably need 400. But even if they had them, the rules, this is a union town, whether they like it or not, there are rules. They just can't come here tomorrow. So there is no solution but one. State of New Jersey, keep your agreement. Keep your C2 agreement. And I assure you, if you keep your C2 agreement, the vendors who I represent will keep their agreement. The district has stated they will assumably keep their agreement. The non-publics, despite this recent email, which says start times are changing, will keep their agreement. State, keep yours.